Hi, um, welcome back everybody to this new webinar about visual production. First of all, thanks for the great response to the previous ones. It's been unexpected, and yeah, let's do a little bit of chit chat before we start, so we give someone else the chance to join us. And as usual, you will be finding everything regarding this webinar down in the description. You have a Google Drive link to a PDF file where you can find a link to the Blueprint UE we will be using tonight, and also the final Unreal Engine project with the virtual camera already working with the new features. Tonight we will be covering just a couple of new features very quick, since I didn't get much time in the last couple of weeks to prepare a new full webinar. That's the reason, because it's called 201.5. Okay, so let's get started and see what's happening tonight. So as I was showing into the teaser, tonight we will be covering 3 different topics. The first one is to make the bookmark always facing the camera and increasing the size of the text depending on the distance from the camera. The other thing we will be doing is giving the UI the chance to check if any bookmark has been placed manually into the environment before we start our session. And the third one is going to be how to load and save our session. So if you have been around scouting and placing bookmarks around your environment, you will be able to save and reload in the next section, so you won't lose everything you have done. Okay, so in order to do this, we start with the bookmark, the bookmark blueprint itself, so the one where we have the geometry and the text for the bookmark. And we start by making this branch, this function, to be available not just whenever we spawn the new bookmark. So far this function is called only when you spawn a new bookmark, so it means that when you spawn a new bookmark you set the number for this text. But in order to be able to give the ID to the bookmark also when you drag into the scene before starting the simulation, we need to get this function also to the construction script. The construction script is whatever is happening when you basically drag the thing into the from the editor into the environment, so it's able to recognize that it is alive, and so it runs whatever is happening here. To show you, if you now drag this into the scene, you can see that it says text, so it means that nothing is applied to this bookmark. And if we copy and paste the same function here, oops, didn't copy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, okay, and we plug into it and we compile. Now when we drag the bookmark into the environment, it says 0. Okay, so means that it's working. Let's make a little bit more clean this, so we delete this and we create a function. So we select the entire branch and we say collapse to function. This way we achieve 2 things. The first thing is easier and more clean, especially not now, but when we have like a big event graph with many different functions and branches, it's just nice and clean to have everything divided into sub-functions like this one. And second, more important, is that if you want to repeat, as we are doing here, we just repeating twice, right, into the event graph, into the construction tree. But you might have like big blueprints where you want to keep repeating the same thing, and in order to do it in a clean way, you create a function. So whenever you have to change whatever is inside the function, you don't have to remember how many times you have copied and pasted the same function into the event graph. So you just change the original function here, and everything has been edited in here will be applied to all the instances around your code and blueprint. Okay, let's call these like bookmark name. And as we said, from here we just drag into the construction script and we plug, we apply, and as you can see, we get the same results. Okay, let's go ahead and get the blueprint UE. Oops. And go to the bookmark, update, scroll down, select the code, and paste it here. Okay, just drag this, oops, sorry, no, up into the construction script. We copy into the event graph. Okay, just drag this guy out. So, this is down here, the function where we check the orientation of the text and we make it facing the camera, and here is where we check the size and make the size bigger or smaller depending on the distance from the camera. Before doing it, we need a reference of the camera, and for getting the reference of the camera, we need first a reference of the poem. Once again, when we copy and paste from the blueprint UE, it's not working correctly, so we use these two nodes as an example of what we need. So we need to cast to the poem, like here, and we create a reference. Okay, let's get rid of this guy. Okay, before changing the name here to a _poem, we need to get rid of the other reference, otherwise it won't allow us to change the name. Okay, now that we have done, we change the name here to _poem. Yep, good. Okay, now we have the reference here. At every tick means every frame. What do? We check the position of the render text in the word space. As we were mentioning, we need the camera as well. So we need the phone and the camera. And we check the position of the camera as well. And using this look_at function, we get the new rotation value that we need to apply to the text render in order to always face the camera. That's what we do here. As a target of the set new word rotation, we need the render text, and we apply the rotation that we get out of the look_at function. Using again the word position of the text render in the camera, we check the distance, and we apply the distance to the new word size of the render text again. If you leave your cursor on top of the node, you can see where it is plugged into. So you can see where we are applying to the word rotation and word size. What I'm doing here is just dividing by 100 the number I'm getting out of the distance, just because it's a huge number and it's just easier dividing by 100, so to get a smaller value and workable value here. And what I do is I clamp this value between 5 and 20. So whenever I'm closer to 5 from the camera and with the camera from the bookmark, I'm getting 5 in any case as a size. And whenever I'm more away from the bookmark than 20, I will clamp the value to 20, because otherwise it gets super huge, and if you have more than a couple of bookmarks, it's going to be not seeing huge numbers all around. But in any case, you have to check this number, the division number, and these two clumps, depending on the size of your scene, and depending on your preferences, basically depends on what you like. So now we have done, we compile and save, no error, so we can try. We drag a bookmark into the scene and we simulate. Here's the camera. So I am holding the controller in my hands. Let's make a wider angle so we can see easier. I move around. Okay, as you can see, the size of this number is too tiny compared to the scene of the scene size, but it's working and it's facing the camera. As you can see, when I rotate around, it's always facing me. So that's fine. So let's try to adjust the size in order to make it more visible. So let's divide it by 50 instead of by 100. See how it works. Yeah, it's a little bit more readable. As you can see here, it's probably 5, and when I go away, it's increasing. To make it more visible again, we can do like divided by 25. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, now it's more readable, and it's probably better this side in this kind of scene. As you can see, it's decreasing until like a certain value, and then it's increasing until 20. Now it's not increasing anymore. That's good. Yeah, it's working. Okay, well, what's happening now? Let's go back to the simulation. So I have a bookmark in a scene, but I don't have the buttons here that identify that bookmark. So I won't be able to actually go to that bookmark if I need it. So what we're doing now, it's going to the UI, tell the UI before starting the simulation to check if there's anything in the scene that it's a bookmark, and if there's a bookmark, create the buttons for each bookmark it finds into the scene. Okay, let's do this now. So in order to do that, we go to the widget, we go to the UI. Here it is. So this is what we did last time, webinar 1, webinar 201, now we have the 215, so we go back again to the Blueprint UI, we get the update of the UI, Control A, Control C, and Control V. Okay. We have copied 2 functions. We keep one close to the other. So the first one up here is the one that does the check before everything starts. So from here we will plug into here that it's the event construct, that it's the one that it's called when the simulation starts. So this function will check if there's any bookmark in the scene, and if it finds anything in the scene, it will call this other function that it will create the bookmarks. Okay, let's get rid of these guys that they're not needed because we are doing into the tick event, so we don't need it to the construct event now. And we have, so the first thing we have is a reference to the cine camera that is used down here. Then we do a sequence, so sequence, yes. Okay, the sequence does exactly this. So it makes a sequence of events. So first it does this, and when this is over, it starts doing the other one. This is just a clean way to, when you want to be sure that things happens in a certain order, you use a sequence. And in this case, to be even more sure that things happen in that event, in that sequence, sorry, I also add a delay of half a second, so it will, I'm sure that everything is built, everything is correct, and then when everything is set up, I will start checking if bookmarks are in scene. So what's happening here? So after half a second, I check for the bookmark in the scene. Once again, we use this branch as a reference for what I'm doing now, because it didn't identify the bookmark when I was copying from Blueprint to UE, so I need to rebuild the entire branch, otherwise it's not working. But it's nice so we can dive into what's happening here. So get all the actor into the class, of that class. It gives me back an array, a list of all the objects he has. If it found any object, it gives me back an array, and I check the length of this array. I'm checking the length for the only reason that if it's greater than 0, then I start doing things. If it's 0, I don't need to do anything, but if it's greater than 0, then I start to do my entire thing here. And what I do, again, from the array, I start to a for loop for each element of this array, of this list. I will first get a reference of my cylinder, that it's the one that I will be using to get the location, basically. So for each element of the array, I'm getting the cylinder, and I'm promoting to a reference so I can get his location later into the branch. Then I setting this number, so I will be able to give the buttons and to the element of the array. In both I will set the number, and I will get the number from the array index. Okay, we did it. We can get rid of this guy here, that it's the old one. We can get the new one, and we can plug the new one into here. Okay, now we need to plug this function. This function is red because it's not yet created. So we need to go into here, and we need to get the information from this new variable, that is the one we created, so the cylinder of each element, and I'm getting his word transformation that I'm plugging into the new bookmark function. This variable is not needed now. So what do I need now? So I need to call this new custom function, and this is again a reference for me to remember that I have to create a function to be called to create the new bookmarks. It's actually the same function we have been using before, so this one, add bookmark, but this time instead of getting the information from the camera position, I need the information from the cylinder here of the new. I can change the name here so it's more clear. So I call this one as in editor bookmark. So this means that this is a reference of everything is already in the editor when we start, and we need the transformation of this one to be applied this time, not to to be applied this time to this branch, but not from the camera, but again from here. So what I do here, I do the same as I did before. So because I need this function to be called few times from now, and also to be changed somehow, and we will see later what I mean. So I collapse to a function. Good. As you can see, it's smart enough to maintain the input of the transformation that we call, instead of new item, we call bookmark location. Okay. And it's also smart enough to output the number that I was using before. If we dive into it, as you can see, nothing changed, right? But it's getting the information of the bookmark location and is applying to the array as we were doing last time, and it's getting as an output the UI bookmark number that it's needed here down here. Okay, so we're not done here. This is a bit of more complex than usual, but it's not very complicated. It's just a little bit more kinky. So this is still having information only from the camera. And in this case, as I said, we need the information from here. So how do we plug into here two different transformations whenever it's needed, one or the other? So we add to the function itself an input that is a transformation, and we call, like, I don't know, new location. Okay, so we can get rid of this guy because it's not needed anymore, and we can get rid of this guy again because it's the same, the camera, but instead of the entire transformation we are getting only X and Y value, because this is where you spawn into the environment, and this is the only thing it's needed to spawn in the environment is X and Y. Nothing else is needed. That's why we were doing this. And we will be plug this new location into bookmark location, and we will break this transformation into splitting the location. We will be just doing this. Okay, cool. So now we can compile and see if we get any errors. Good, everything is working fine, but so far nothing is happening because this transformation so far is just 0, 0, 0, because when we call this, we're not plugging anything into it. And we are calling this one from the pawn. So I'm opening the pawn. And here is when I'm calling that function. When I press V, as you remember, I was placing the V key is the one that it's actually calling the function to spawn the new bookmark. So now I need not just to spawn the bookmark, but to tell which is the new location where I want to spawn the bookmark. What I need the cine camera. I was doing exactly the same thing before, but I was doing the UI. Now I'm doing from the pawn. And the only reason, because I'm doing from the pawn, just let me do this, to get word transformation. Sorry, the only reason because I'm doing from the pawn now instead of the UI is that because I'm now able, whenever I call the function, to also give the new transformation I needed. So let's compile and save, everything is good, and when we go back here, when we call this function, we're getting this new transformation from the cine camera. It's exactly the same as before, but from a different perspective. But now, when I call this other new bookmark, I'm also able not just to give the cine camera, but whatever is needed. So in this case, I can call the function, the new function I've just created. No, sorry. No, yes, sorry. Yeah. But using the transformation of the cylinder. So same thing that way here. No, here. I'm getting the information from the camera. From here, I'm getting the information from the bookmark. Okay. I'm doing also this way because we will see later we can also add we can also feed in transformation from other things that we will be needed later. That's why we did the entire thing now. Okay, so this is good, this is good. Now we have to plug the existing bookmark function at the end of this line. Just drag out of here. Existing bookmark. Good. Okay, we're done. Oh, let's call this one like new bookmark. New bookmark button. Okay, so now we know that when we call this function, it's the one that it creates new bookmark. Sorry, the new bookmark buttons. See if it's working. So we simulate. Yeah, it's working. As you can see, I didn't remember I was placing actually a bookmark in the scene, but it seems like he knows. Let's go there. Let's let's go back here. Yeah, here it is. And if I click on the bookmark button just created, I'm on top of the bookmark, and it's still changing the size and facing me whenever I'm moving. Nice. Just for the sake of thing, let's make the bookmark button black. I go to style, change this to black, and when I hover it, I change this to a little bit more like gray, and when I press it, I change it to pretty dark down here. Okay, cool. Let's see if it's working. Goodbye and save. Let's close this one. Yeah, it's easier, nicer. Cool. Okay, so let's try to place a couple of bookmarks and see what happens. So in the scene actor, I place 0, 0. Sorry, bookmarks. Let's. So as you can see, buttons has been identified like 0, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 0, 1, 2. And if I go around, ooh, what's happening? So the UI, it's identifying the bookmark in a correct way, assigning them the number, but it's not changing the number we are displaying here. Okay, so we need to add into the new created function here when we check. Okay, this is where we check if anything is in the scene before we start the simulation. So what we need from here to run the same thing we are running in the blueprint. So we need to set the text, render. Here it is, and we do the same as we are doing there, like just adding to the value of the text the number we're doing. We are not calling that function, so we are not calling the entire function here, what we call the bookmark name function, because the bookmark name function is also changing the size and everything. Here we just need to, here we just need to identify, giving an ID basically. Once we are given an ID to the bookmark, everything is working fine. So again, here is 0, 1, this is 0, this is 2, this is 1. They're all facing me when I'm moving around, and they all change the size based on the distance. I'm too far, I'm getting closer, they're getting smaller. Okay, and if I click like 2 for example, I'm on 2. If I click 0, I'm on 0. So good. So far so good. We save everything because we are happy. And now we move to the final thing, and we will be adding to the pawn the save and load function. So let's go to Blueprint UE. Let's go to the save and load blueprint. Scroll down. Control A, Control C. Event graph, Control V. Save and load. Okay. Let's do this a little bit. So let's do two things separately. So let's focus on the save first. This is the save function. I'm using the page up to save. And what I'm saving the position of the 201 bookmark. That's the one I want to save. Before starting the save thing, I need to create a new blueprint into the content folder, and I will search for a class this time. I'm not using the default one. I'm searching here for save game. Here it is. Select save game and add, and we call like 201 underscore save game. Good. We open up because what we need to save, what we want to save so far. So far we only want to save the location, bookmark locations. Bookmark location. And in this case, the location of course is not a boolean, but it's a vector. In this case, just XYZ, and it's not a single one because we are saving all the bookmarks we have in the scene. So we need again a list of the bookmark in the scene. So we need an array. Okay, very simple. We have created a save game blueprint, and we created inside of it an array of location. This is the only thing it's needed. So we can go back here. So we save the bookmark. Sorry, with the page up, we check for all the actor of the bookmark in a class, same as we are doing when we check if bookmarks already exist. And then we use this node, create a save game. We just created. It's called 201 save game. And from here we have again the annoying thing we have to recreate. So for each element of the list of the bookmark existing in the scene, I want to store the value of each one into the bookmark location, into the save game object, the bookmark location. I want to add an item, an element, and the element I want to add, again, it's coming from the cylinder. The cylinder of the bookmark is the one that we use as a position, basically. So that's why I'm using always the cylinder, and I'm getting word location, get word location, and add a word location here. So what I'm doing, for each element, I'm adding a new item into the list of the bookmarks, and when I'm done, I want to print game, session, so session saved. Okay. Well, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that we need this guy at the very end. So that's why I'm copying and pasting from here, from the blueprint UE, because I'm using, whenever it's not doing things correctly, but at least I'm getting an idea of which are the elements that are needed. So after we save the game, we need to use like a game slot that I've called Game Scout in order to have a reference of where things were saved. Okay, that's good. Just plug in and see if it's working. Okay, let's unplug this guy, that it's the load function, because otherwise it's not done, because it's not done yet. It's going to generate an error. And so far so good. And we have our bookmarks that we have placed in the scene. Just place a new one, nice, in the empty space, and when I press page up, session saved. Nice. Now let's retrieve the saved session. So we can go to page down. That is the key I'm using to reload things I've saved. I'm using the do once, so I will not accidentally reload things more than just once. Otherwise I will be having bookmarks stop on top of other bookmarks. I don't want this to happen, so I make it the load. I can save as many times as I want, but when I load it, I want to load just once. After pressing the key, doing once, I'm checking if a save game exists, that it's the vscout I was just created. If exists, I'm loading from that slot vscout, and here it's where I need to start rebuilding my branch. And so from here I need to get information from the saved object. So cast to 201 save game. We need to cast because we need to get the bookmarks, and it's because it's a list, and because we need to go through the list, we again need our for each loop, and for each loop of the element of this array I need the location. So that's location, oh sorry, yeah. So here we are. So what we are doing here, so now we need that thing that, what was the add bookmark, I think? Yeah, add bookmark. As you can see, this is the add bookmark we had just changed. Sorry, UI. We had just changed a bookmark here, so in order to be able to feed this add bookmark with more than just a single camera transformation, so we now can feed this function with any transformation we want. And in this case, from the load function that we need to feed the bookmark, the add new bookmark, with the transformation we are getting. Oops, sorry, bit of a mess. Yeah, got it from here. So because this is just a location, we need to make a transformation. Make transformation and plug into here. Okay, so when we make the transformation, in this case we just need the location, because rotation and scales are always the same when we spawn bookmarks, and we are not interested in transformation and scaling. So get rid of this guy and plug this other guy. And once everything is done, we want to say print session loaded. Here you go. Session loaded. Cool, but it's it. Everything is fine. Cool. So let's see. Let's get rid of these guys. Otherwise, we will be placing on top of, let's say, we will be placing the bookmarks on top of the already existing bookmarks. We want to have like an empty environment. Okay, so let's start the simulation. And now let's open up a little bit. And let's load. Oh, no game save. Let's go back and see what happened. So, oh, I think I know what happened. So we need to, yeah, we see here we're saving the slot, but we're not tending to the slot which is the game object, the save game object we need. So we set here. Let's try again. Now we don't have anything into the scene, so we can spawn a couple of them. So now we have 3 bookmarks, 0, 1, 2, 3, page up, session saved, ask, simulate again, go back, page down, session loaded. Here they are. Yeah, we successfully reload the session. Okay guys, thank you very much. Hopefully this is helpful. Let's again ask questions on the live chat now. I will be around for another 15-20 minutes. Otherwise, just leave messages, link me on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and I'm always available for suggestions or anything. Thank you very much once again, and see you in a couple of weeks. Ciao.